Welcome to my 2024 Christmas special. If you didn't know by now, I like to watch a lot of movies. Throughout the year, I write down every single movie that I see, whether it's in theaters or on streaming or something I pirated off the internet. And at the end of the year, for the past 5 years, I've been doing this. I do these lightning round reviews for every single movie that I've seen throughout the year. But the catch is that I do absolutely no preparation for this review. I don't look up who is in it or what the plot was about, and my challenge is to tell you, well, who is in it and what the plot was about. What is this movie? If I remember nothing about it, that's probably because the movie sucked and it's not worth your time. I'll let you know what my favorites were throughout the year, and I'll let you know what the biggest disappointments were throughout the year at the end of this. Either way, here's to another year of movie watching. Merry Christmas, everybody. All right, let's get into this. So a number of these movies have to do with the Bum Kino channel. So I want to get those ones out of the way first. So let's see, we got Soy Leyenda, I Am Omega, The Omega Man, I Am Legend, and The Last Man on Earth. All these movies have to do with the I Am Legend adaptation showdown. It's the most viewed one I have at this moment. It's got like 250,000 plus views. What is all this I Am Legend stuff about? There's a virus and it takes over the whole planet. You know, we've heard this story a million times, 28 Days Later, other movies like that. Well, they're all looking back to this. This is like the archetypal apocalyptic zombie story, except this story in a historical, larger movie context sense serves as the bridge between like older vampire movies and newer modern Night of the Living Dead zombie kind of movies. The zombies from Night of the Living Dead were heavily inspired by this because if you watch these movies, especially the Vincent Price Last Man on Earth one, which was the first of these movies, you'll realize that these vampires that are hunting them at night act more like zombies, act more like things that we have seen as zombies for the past 60 years of cinema. They're all good stories, except for I Am Omega. I mean, now it's made by The Asylum. If you don't know what that movie company is, look them up. They made Sharknado, so that's like their best movie. So keep that in mind. The Will Smith one, a lot of people either love it or hate it. I enjoy it. I like his performance in it. Charlton Heston's The Omega Man. It's amazing. It's like the campiest 70s movie, but I love it. Soy Leyenda, surprisingly, this really obscure 1960s Spanish movie, like from Spain, you know, in the 60s. This ended up being the most accurate one to the original I Am Legend book. So that was a big surprise for me. So earlier this year, I did an adaptation showdown for the book Red Dragon and the two movies that were based off it. Manhunter and Red Dragon, it's the same story, and it's almost kind of the same story, Silence of the Lambs, structural wise. So everyone knows Hannibal Lecter from those two movies. He's like the big, iconic, scary bad guy from those movies. But he's not the bad guy from the movie. Various members of the FBI go to him for advice to try and catch a serial killer that is currently out there. And Hannibal is just like playing mind games with everyone. Classic movies. I really like them. The movie Hannibal, I remember watching this, renting this from Blockbuster as a kid, and I thought it was interesting. But now that I have a big adult brain, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I heard the book ending is way different, so look forward to reading that in the future. Next group of movies I've got here is the movies based on the original book called Who Goes There. For all four of these, the story is generally that there is an alien spaceship that crashed in Antarctica long ago. There's these scientists, researchers, they're doing research, exploring around. They find this thing. It's like, oh, wow, an alien ship. They bring the alien back to their base. He thaws from the ice and starts mimicking their bodies and taking over. And there's a lot of scary moments. There's a lot of suspense, suspicion, paranoia, alien violence. Cool stuff. Can't believe I haven't seen these before. I would recommend any of these movies, except maybe the remake. But if you've seen three of them, watch them all. The next have to do with my Kubrick Quest series on this channel, so I'm just going to kind of breeze through these as quick as I can. World War I, he is a soldier in the French army. They got to go take this German position, but he says, I don't want to do that because we're all going to die. And the bigger general says, no, you have to do it. And he says, I'm not going to do it. And he goes, all right, screw you. And he starts firing on his own people and accusing them of treason for not going out on what was surely a suicide mission. Their own people shoot him because they didn't go out into the field to die. It's got that, irony, as the French say. Okay, Spartacus, also starring Kirk Douglas. I feel like I've heard this story before, but I feel like a lot of other movies were taking a story from Spartacus, which was also based on a book called Spartacus, which was based on the real-life events of, Spartacus. He was a slave in the Roman Empire, and he was picked out of slavery to become a gladiator. He went to gladiator school, then he started a rebellion. He fought the Roman army best he could, but those damn Romans kept coming. Okay, The Killing. So this movie is like Reservoir Dogs, but in the 1950s. So you got a bunch of bank robber dudes, except they're not robbing a bank, they're robbing a horse betting track, and they have this whole elaborate plan, except this movie, everything goes wrong for them. It's like they have it so meticulously planned, and there's a critical moment, and it just starts tumbling at the end. Crime doesn't pay. You should know that by now. Okay, Killer's Kiss. What was this about? It wasn't my favorite Kubrick movie. It was interesting if you're like his style and you could see the origins of how he's getting some ideas for interesting camera work and stuff like that. But story-wise, this was about this dude who's a boxer, and he falls in love with this girl who works for this other dude who says like, hey, that's my girl, you can't have her. And he's like, no, we're in love. It was like, I've seen this story before. It wasn't too much special there. Interestingly though, what I didn't know when I was doing the research for Killer's Kiss was that there was a movie called Stranger's Kiss, which is a much more low budget thing from the 80s that was about the making of Killer's Kiss. And it was also about a love story outside of the filming of that movie between the two people starring in that movie. So it was like a life imitating art, imitating life, imitating art kind of thing. You know what I mean? All right, moving on. Lolita. So, do I have to describe this? I don't know if I want to. Oh my! You got this little Humbert is a pervert. Let's just say that. Okay, Dr. Strangelove. This is one of my favorite Kubrick movies. One sentence summary is that this movie is about nuclear Armageddon. Everyone dies. It's the end of the world, but it's a comedy. All right, moving on. Next group of movies relate to another adaptation showdown, which I have not yet uploaded, which is based on the original book, The Body Snatchers, which was turned into the movies The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Body Snatchers, and Just the Invasion. General story for all of these is that these alien pods float down from space, start assimilating people. They make replicas of them, but there's something just off about them. People who know that person really well, it's like, hey, you're the same, but you're not the same. What's going on? Main characters run around, run away from the aliens. It's like, one of us, join us. It's that whole kind of thing. Interestingly, all the movies had a completely different ending for the book. Not going to spoil that. You'll have to watch the adaptation showdown when that comes out. Okay, so we got Hubert Selby Jr. I learned about this author earlier this year, and I started reading some of his books. We've got Last Exit to Brooklyn and Requiem for a Dream. Last Exit to Brooklyn is several different stories going on. I'm not going to go into all the stories. There's 6 of them throughout this book. You got people who beat their significant others, both men and women. You got pimps. You got prostitutes. You got gang members. You got violence. You got drug use. You got profanity. You got all this kind of terrible stuff. Requiem for a Dream. You've got violence, you've got drug use, you've got profanity, all this terrible stuff. I really do see a theme between this man's 2 books here. So, moving on. Okay, this next category is about documentaries that I've seen in 2024. Call Me Miss Cleo. So this was a documentary that is on HBO Max. It might still be there, I swear I saw it. But it's about that TV psychic. If you remember, I don't know if you're about my age. Do you want to know your future? She was the one who was on late at night, asking people to call in, and she would somehow, through the phone lines, read your future. I don't know how that works. It was about her life story. What do I remember about her life story? Well, she had a beginning, rise to fame, she had a peak for a while, and then eventually went down. Pretty unique. Baby God. Okay, this is one of the most fucked up things I've seen all year. Pardon the language, but you're going to agree with me. That guy in the poster, he was a fertility doctor. He was apparently brilliant. He was very good at his work, and he had a very high success rate. People couldn't conceive. They went to his practice. They were all able to conceive afterwards. He had like 100% success rate. People loved him, except all of the kids who came from women getting pregnant going to his service were his. No one knew for years, till decades later, people started finding out, connecting through the internet. Anytime, I guess, artificial insemination was involved, he used his own stuff, not the husband's. Endless ethical questions going on here. You feel bad for the kid. You feel bad for the mom. You realize this guy is a monster. I felt worse for the dads, because imagine growing up your whole life, it's not your kid. It's like, what? Journeys with George. Okay, I think I saw this on HBO Max as well. That lady there, that is Nancy Pelosi's daughter. She is a documentary filmmaker, which I guess back in the year 2000, 1999, documentary filmmaker meant you just have this little camcorder, and you just throw it together in iMovie. It was about the quality of this. This was interesting because, the whole world of politics can be fascinating. And this was about following George W. Bush's campaign around the country in 1999 and 2000, and had something to do with that after the scandal and the hanging chads and all those chads. Okay, Orson Welles' F for Fake. This was made by Orson Welles. What was it about? It was a documentary about this either real or fictional. I don't know. He might be real. I have no idea. I don't even remember his name. It was about a painter, and he was a fake painter. What do I mean by that? Like, he was a very good painter, but like he would take a Van Gogh painting, reproduce it perfectly, and then sell that to art dealerships saying like, look, it's a Van Gogh. And he was so good, no one would know. So it was interesting. Also, the editing and filming this was insane. So another Orson Welles related documentary is The Eyes of Orson Welles, whereas the other one was good. This one was a pretentious piece of shit. The narrator in this documentary was just so serious and heavy. He was like, this was the desk where Orson Welles wrote his movie scripts every day. What were you thinking, Orson? What did you feel as you typed those words? It was like, I can't do this. I made it like 15 minutes. Next documentary is Time Bomb Y2K. This just brought back a lot of nostalgia. When the new millennia turned, I was in my bedroom watching Dexter's Ego Trip, if you remember that obscure cartoon movie. But yeah, this was a time that was quite the time, if you were there. Wow. I just think it's kind of interesting to look back and realize that everyone was freaking out. People really thought the world was going to end. Nothing happened. Quiet on Set. What's more effed up? Baby God, the documentary, or Quiet on Set? I think just in sheer numbers, Baby God is more messed up. That was involving hundreds of people. Probably on an emotional level, Quiet on Set, especially for people my age who grew up watching these shows, you can't really watch them the same again. Every time you see the name, produced by Dan Schneider, I'm like, ugh. The worst thing about this was when Drake Bell was speaking. That was just painful. Okay, one of my favorite things I've seen all year was this HBO Max documentary called Telemarketers. So one reason I love it was that it all took place in New Jersey. Remember the early and mid 2000s? You'd be eating dinner, he goes, ring, 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 you pick up the phone, and some guy trying to sell you some crap. It was probably the greatest telemarketing scam of all time, and it took place in Woodbridge, New Jersey. So it was incredible. Okay, Wise Guy, David Chase and The Sopranos. This documentary came in two parts. Part one was more about David Chase's early life and his early career and where he went to school and his first movies. I thought that was very interesting. I didn't know anything about him. Part two largely had to do with The Sopranos. That was also interesting because there was some stuff I did not know. Okay, so this year I got really into Bret Easton Ellis. He's an author. He's written many cool books. 4 of those books were turned into movies. Okay, so first, Bret Easton Ellis' movie is Less Than Zero. It was good. It's about this guy named Clay. He goes to college out in the Northeast somewhere, and he goes back to LA for Christmas break, and this whole movie is about doing a lot of drugs, seeing friends, seeing the old ways his friends are stuck in back in LA where he came from. I really enjoyed the book. The weirdest thing about the movie, it makes Robert Downey Jr. the main character, more or less. And in the book, he was kind of a side plot. American Psycho. Okay, what is this about? Patrick Bateman is a Wall Street investment guy from the 80s, goes around killing people. The best thing about the book and the movie is that you don't know whether he's really crazy the whole time, or you don't know if he's actually killing people, or it's in his head, or the ending is very ambiguous. It just creates a very unsettling feeling. Probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. The Informers. So this was an okay Bret Easton Ellis book, like mid-tier. The movie was, I would give this like a 5% out of 100. It was just misery. It was like rolling down a hill made of thumbtacks. It was not fun. Oh, the worst thing was they left out this whole story about vampires. So, why would you leave that out? It was the best part in the book. Rules of Attraction. What is this about? So it's hard to say what any Bret Easton Ellis books or movies are about because they're not very plot heavy. This is about just some kids at college, drinking, doing drugs, having sex, being college kids. The movie was all right. Okay, so the next group is movies that came out in theaters that I saw in the movie theaters in 2024. These are things that actually came out this year. Beetlejuice, the sequel to Beetlejuice, I thought was hilarious. What's it about generally? Beetlejuice is this weird trickster, prankster, demon guy, and he still wants to marry Lydia, I think her name is. Just about all the main characters from the original Beetlejuice are in this one, except for the dad character. There are some reasons that he's not in this movie. If you care to look them up, you can enlighten yourself. But yeah, Beatles, I thought it was hilarious. When the way they incorporated the Deo song, the Deo, oh my God, when that faded, I think I had tears in my eyes. It was so funny. But yeah, if you liked Beetlejuice 1, you'll like this. I actually think this was funnier than Beetlejuice 1. Megalopolis. All right, I need to take a drink for this. New York City, but it's the future. But it's also like the 1920s or 30s. But it's also ancient Rome. Can't really tell you when this movie takes place. What was it about? So basically, Adam Driver's character is this pretentious architect guy. He wants to build this new massive structure, building, or park, or section of city called Megalopolis with this material that he found, I guess, called Megalodon or Megalodon. One of those is a dinosaur. Adam Driver wants to build this thing. Gus Fring is he the mayor? I think he's the mayor. And he's like, no, man, don't build that for these various reasons. And I don't remember what it's about. Jesus Christ. I can't remember the plot. I will say it's one of the most unique things I've seen. I can't say it was the best. I can't say it was the worst. But this movie is an experience, okay? I'll tell you that. You will not forget watching this. You may forget what it's literally about. Heretic. So I thought this was very cool. I also have a review of it on my channel if you want to check that out. But if you want to see Heretic, I totally recommend it because it's about these two Mormon missionary girls who are going house to house trying to convert people to the Mormon faith. They go to Hugh Grant's house. Turns out he's a creep. He locks the house. He's like, oh, sure, you can leave. Just have to go through these doors. And he has a philosophical trap set up for him. Like a door says belief and disbelief. And he goes on these rants. He's like evil monologues about belief and causality. I thought all that was very interesting. It was more of a philosophy kind of movie than a horror movie. I really liked it, though. Okay, this is the 4:30 movie. So what's it generally about? It's generally about that kid right there, second from the right. He wants to go on a date with that girl all the way on the right there. And they're going to go see a movie at 4:30. And it's just about all the shenanigans. Kind of like a little slice of life, coming of age type of movie. Cute, funny. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. Feels like one of those movies they don't make anymore. It's a Kevin Smith movie. He's from New Jersey. He owns a movie theater not too far from where I live. This movie, called the 4:30 movie, took place almost completely at the movie theater Kevin Smith owns. I saw it at that theater at 4:30. So, that was cool. Kinds of Kindness. Okay, what is this about? You got like 3 or 4 main different stories. Some interconnect, I think. All were interesting is by this Greek director, Yorgos Lanthimos. His stuff is always interesting. You may not like all of it, but it's very unique. Trapped in their situations in some way. I can't say what any one of these things are about. Worth a watch, though. Maxine was fun if you like any of the other movies in the X trilogy, which include Pearl and X. So if you've seen either of those, also starring Mia Goth, Maxine is worth a watch. It closes out that trilogy. It's her same character from X that she was playing. Despicable Me 4, what was this about? So, it's a Despicable Me movie. It's made by Illumination. Very cute, very funny. I felt like the plot of this one was smaller scale compared to the other ones, but this one wasn't about like some giant evil supervillain league coming to fight Gru or something. This was just about Gru and his family have to go into witness protection. They go into hiding for a while for some reason. Them kind of adjusting to life in this new place, trying to hide their identities. Meanwhile, this old rival of Gru's is after him. Abigail, it was good. It's worth a watch. It's about this little girl, but she's a vampire. And people try and rob her family. Then the house locks, and they're like, they locked us in here. And it turns out they're actually food for Abigail because she's a vampire and she's going to eat them. It was good. I liked it. It had some cool music. Long Legs. Okay, I've seen some people who hate this movie. I enjoyed it. I don't think too hard about all the details, and this movie is an enjoyable ride. It might not make complete sense, but I really liked it. Nicolas Cage gave one of the craziest performances I've ever seen. He just bashed his head into the table until he died. All right, Gladiator 2. What was it about? Okay, have you seen Gladiator 1? All right, it's about a bunch of guys. It's about a bunch of guys, gladiators. They're fighting in an arena, and there's some Roman politics. A lot of blood, a lot of sword clashing, a lot of sand, sword and sandal kind of movie, one of those. And there's a scene where these baboons come out. Oh, I still have nightmares. Okay, this next category is TV shows that I've watched in 2024. I don't mean just an episode here or there. This was about TV shows I haven't seen before and watched the whole thing through. So let's start with 6 Feet Under. This is an HBO show from the early 2000s. Good. It was very heavy. This isn't the type of show, for example, where you're having dinner and you're thinking, oh, let's just put on something nice and easy and lighthearted. No, this show is, it's like every episode of the show that there's some life-changing event for these people. And earlier role for Michael C. Hall, who would later go on to famously play Dexter. So he's playing a very not Dexter character in this. So that was interesting to see. 2 brothers, Dexter and the other guy, I forget his name, David and Nate were the brother names. They inherited a family business, which was a funeral home from their father when he died. And it's about the family trying to stay together. And each episode, there's different people getting buried there. A lot of drama. Righteous Gemstones. This is definitely my favorite comedy show that I've seen in 2024. Danny McBride, John Goodman, a bunch of other names, a lot of good actors in this. Everyone's role feels so unique. Are they from the Carolinas or like somewhere in the Bible Belt South? I guess the Bible Belt. I don't remember where they're from. Either way, they have one of those like giant televangelist megachurch type things. One thing that I appreciate about this series is that they don't treat the main people as complete idiots. They're nice to them. It's a very well-written comedy. I don't feel like anyone is just the butt of the joke. Even the goofiest characters have heart to them. You can understand why they're doing what they're doing. It's rare to see a comedy and you actually care about what happens to these people. It's very well written and acted. It's cast perfectly. Uncle Baby Billy is one of the funniest people to me. Uncle Baby Billy's Bible bonkers. Okay, so next we have Vice Principals, also by Danny McBride, same guy who made Righteous Gemstones. His sister from Righteous Gemstones also in this. Vice Principals is good, only lasts 2 seasons, and the story is actually over. It's not like it got canceled, so that's nice. Always nice when a show actually has an ending. I preferred Righteous Gemstones. Think it was a lot funnier. Some parts of Vice Principals just seem like you guys were being complete assholes. Like, it was hard to find redeeming things about them. It did get a good number of laughs out of me. So if you like Danny McBride's style, worth a watch. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, here we get to the completely random part of my list. So Mallrats by Kevin Smith. So what's this about? Hangout kind of movie, not very plot heavy. It takes place in New Jersey, as all of Kevin Smith movies do. It's about these 2 slackers, these 2 schlups. They're hanging out in the mall. And he's got some teenage comedies, a little romance plot in there. It was good. Of all Kevin Smith movies, I would put this in the top tier of his movies. I like it. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? So this is a movie from the late 1960s, and it has a lot to do with social commentary and racial issues. And the interesting thing was that this is, 50 plus years old at this point, this movie? It's just as relevant today as it was when it came out. It's very well written, very well acted. You know, I don't usually go for just straight Oscar bait drama type movies, but I had no complaints about it. It's a very good movie if you like classic kind of Oscar bait movies. Come on, if there was ever Oscar bait, it's this movie. Naked Lunch. Okay, what the hell is this about? Peter Weller, RoboCop, is a detective. He goes into like the weirdo dimension and there's a bunch of bugs and he's got a typewriter and he was like writing a story. I could not for the life of me tell you what this was about. It was based on a book by William S. Burroughs. The reason I watch this is because the band Steely Dan, their name came from a thing that was in the Naked Lunch story by William S. Burroughs. And I said, oh, wow, they made a movie about that. Let me see what it's about. And I have no idea what it's about. The Holdovers. Okay, so this was a good movie. I really liked it. Great acting, great writing. It looked great. It looked like very warm 70s picture. You know, it's got that graininess to the movie. Everyone's wearing brown sweaters. You could smell this movie. Yeah, in a good way. About this kid who gets left at college over the winter break, or boarding school, not college, I guess. And he has to stay with this guy who's like Mr. Frump. He's like the hard teacher, and unlikely friends became friends. No hard feelings. Okay, this movie took place in a very wealthy neighborhood in Long Island. This dude on the right here's a loser, and his parents hired Jennifer Lawrence to date him. And you know where the plot's going, right? He gets feelings for her, and he finds out, wait, they just hired you to date me? And she's like, no, it's not like that. We've seen that movie before. You don't have to see it. Hole in the Ground. Oh, no. This is the first one this year when I don't know what it's about. There's a horror movie. There was a hole in the ground. Soul Plane. There's like this jumbo jet that gets done up like a Pimp My Ride episode. It's all funky and purple and it's got hot tubs in it. You know, honestly, the plot doesn't matter. It got a few laughs out of me. All right, I chuckled a few times. My favorite character was that old dude. He was like, "Oh, give me a quadruple cognac. Let me talk to the ladies." He was funny. Beauty Shop, Queen Latifah. All right. I believe this is a spin-off of the Barbershop series. Beauty Shop and Barbershop, I do not have the relevant life experiences to actually enjoy this. I wouldn't watch it again. Staten Island. So what was this about? This was a mafia movie. Took place on Staten Island. You got mob guys, you got the innocent people get wrapped up in the bad stuff. There's a betrayal, there's robbery, there's some bloodshed. Really fun stuff. One thing I liked about this was that this was a relatively low budget, obscure movie, especially for the mob genre. I don't hear anyone talking about this, but I liked it. I didn't really have any problems with it. It felt like a very small scale kind of thing, and that was good. They don't all have to be this like epic, decades long Goodfellas, the Irishman kind of thing. This was a good movie. I would see this again. Vincent D'Onofrio was some mob dude who stayed like in a treehouse for a long time. I don't remember why. Drive Me Crazy. All right. Melissa Joan Hart, and she likes that guy or he likes her, and they're in high school, and, you know, I don't know. They're just driving each other crazy. Prisoners. Okay, this movie was excellent. This felt like Silence of the Lambs, but made in the 2010s, 2020. When did this come out? I have no idea. A lot of creepy stuff. Just the atmosphere was so dark and wet and miserable. I loved it. Really good movie. Okay, in 2024, I got really into the RoboCop movies. So, RoboCop 1 is a classic. It's got all this social satire and sci-fi elements, and it's real gritty when that guy is melted by the acid in the end. Oh, that stays with me. I saw that when I was way too young. Okay, RoboCop 2, kind of the same story. It's all the same characters. It's just more. It's bigger. You know, it's a sequel. RoboCop 2 is very enjoyable. RoboCop 3 is, I don't know. I don't think the main guy came back. Peter Weller was not RoboCop in this movie, I don't think. So it felt weird. The RoboCop remake in 2014, that was not Peter Weller. I don't remember the guy's name. The movie was just okay. It had a lot of potential. RoboCop's new suit looked pretty badass. Look at that. Invitation to a Murder. Okay, this movie sucked. It looked like a Agatha Christie novel, right? But it's not. It's nowhere near that quality of like And Then There Were None, one of those stories, Murder in Paris or whatever they're called. It was nowhere like that. What was this about? There's a big house and some guy sends out letters and he's like, "Hey, everyone, come on by." And they come on by and one of you killed him. And they're like, "It wasn't me." Do not watch this. Kentucky Fried Movie. Oh my God. There's no about for this movie. I can't tell you what it's about. It's a comedy movie. It's a parody of everything. It's like a YouTube poop. It's like an internet shitpost made in the 70s. Very funny. Kung Pao style humor. Just absurdity. The Barbie movie. Yay. Okay. I did not like the Barbie movie. I know the Barbie movie is not made for me. It's not for my demographic. I feel like I can appreciate a lot of different types of movies. I watch a very wide breadth of genres and decades. As long as something's good, I can enjoy it. The Ken stuff was funny. Barbie did some funny stuff. There were some good jokes. This movie wasn't just trying to be funny. It was trying to be a social commentary event of the decade. It was trying to have this intellectualness about it. You remember the first trailer referenced Stanley Kubrick in 2001? It was like a dun, dun. It had the big monolith, and Barbie was the monolith. So it's implying there's something artsy, something greater to this. Oh, you just didn't get it. I'm like, get what? I'm like, well, you're not a girl. You wouldn't get it. I'm like, okay. But what did I not get? I'm like, you just don't get it. I can't. There was no point to this movie. I hate it. I'm never watching this again. No, absolutely not. Haven't seen Oppenheimer either. Edge of Tomorrow. This is a very good science fiction movie. Very cool. Tom Cruise is this soldier guy in the future where they wear all these, crazy mech suits. He gets infected by one of the aliens. That's why he's not affected by the time loops. He goes out to fight in battle and he dies. And then he just wakes up and he gets to do it again. But he learns each time, like, oh, don't go there because they're dropping a bomb there. Or watch out, there's an alien over there. So each time he learns, and eventually he can find his way to the main alien and destroy it and save the world. It was very good. Killing Them Softly. I don't remember what this was about. Brad Pitt has a shotgun. Oh, I see why I watched this. James Gandolfini was in it. And Ray Liotta. Wow, it's got a good cast. Maybe I should watch this. The Blackening. All right. Well, this is a comedy horror movie, which is just playing off that one trope of, the black person is always the first one to die in the horror movie. It was good. I laughed. It got a few chuckles out of me. It wasn't like piss your pants kind of funny, but I may have pissed my pants, but not because of that movie. Barbershop. Okay, I talked about Beauty Shop. Now I'm on to Barbershop. Once again, I do not have the relevant life experiences to accurately assess the quality of this comedy. On just a film level, it was all right. Did I laugh? No. I watched people getting their hair did. Don't Breathe 2, still not breathing. So this was about... okay, I remember. Don't Breathe 1 was that rundown house outside of Detroit, Michigan, and these kids break into it because they think this old guy has money or something like that, and he's blind, but he's dangerous, and he beats the crap out of them and kills them. They make him the main character, the main sympathetic character, which is really weird. If you remember what he did in Don't Breathe 1, he was not the good guy in that movie. So it's weird that they make him like the hero in this. I don't know if I want to root for this guy. Saltburn. What was this about? That dude in the middle, little rat-faced boy there, he cons his way into this rich aristocratic family in England. Honestly, I hated this movie. I didn't even finish it, so do not recommend that. Aniara, or Aniara, whatever, however you want to say this. One of my favorite movies of the year. This movie is the definition of the word bleak. There's nothing happy about this movie. You literally watch these people die very slowly on a spaceship. A bunch of people on a spaceship on some kind of evacuation mission that get hit by an asteroid. It ruins their navigation system, and basically they're just going to be drifting till forever. 1 month later, there's some chaos. 2 years later, there's more chaos and death. 10 years later, no one's alive. This movie left a crazy impression on me. I would recommend it, not for everybody. The Peanuts movie. Okay, Charlie Brown and Snoopy and the friends go on some kind of adventure. It's very cute. I thought it was very well done. If you're in the mood for a cartoon, if you like the Peanuts stuff, if you like nuts in general, it's a good movie. Samurai 2. Actually, I saw 3 of these, so this was Samurai 1, 2, and 3. What were the samurai movies about? They were, there's some samurai and some other guys with swords attack his village, and he's like, oh no. And he goes into exile, and then he trains very hard for a long time, comes back and gets revenge. VHS 1994. Okay, so this was my first time seeing anything in the VHS series. I didn't know this was a horror anthology movie going in, and they didn't really make that clear on the artwork on the back of the box or anything. So for the first 40 minutes of me watching this, I was very confused, trying to figure out how these stories are related to one another. Turns out they didn't. Some of the stories are really good. Hail Ratma. If you've seen, you know. It was really good though. I liked it. Some were surprising, some were gritty and gory, some were thoughtful. I did not regret watching this. Memento. Okay, I saw this a long time ago, and then I rewatched it. Figure I'll try and rewatch some Christopher Nolan movies to remind myself of why I'm not a big fan of his, because his movies are like, he gets really high one day. Guys, what if I told a movie out of order? And I'm like, whoa, dude, that's a great idea. And then he actually films it and forgets to write compelling characters and reasons to care about what you're seeing on screen. Like, the idea is cool. What happened? Guy Pearce wakes up with no memory. Joe Pantaleone is the cop, something, do not trust this. I don't know what happened. Poor Things. Okay, this was, if you like that Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos always making weird but interesting movies, worth a watch. Poor Things is also worth a watch. I enjoyed it. It's like a off-kilter Frankenstein kind of story. Mad scientist, he takes the baby out of a pregnant woman who was dying, saves the baby by putting its brain into, what's her face there? Emma Stone. And it's like a baby's brain in a real-life adult's body, and she goes on this weird adventure. I really liked it. It was very interesting, very original. I don't know why I didn't put these back together, but VHS 1999, also very interesting. I think VHS 94 was better. It leaned heavier into the VHS analog aspects, which I thought worked very well. VHS 99 was trying to start to incorporate some of the digital crap, and I don't remember any of the stories from this. There was like a stack of TV CTR TV monitors, playing static, supposed to be creepy or something. I wasn't creeped out. Shrek 2. Okay, well, what's the plot? You got Shrek, you got Fiona, Donkey, there's a cat now. Prince Charming is trying to steal Fiona away, and Shrek goes on a mission to stop it. I like Shrek 1 better. Shrek 1's just a classic. I mean, some people say this is better than the first. I've just seen the first way too many times, and I like it better. Kirsten Dunst starring as Marie Antoinette in Marie Antoinette by Sofia Coppola. She's got her own weird style that's distinct from her crazy father, Francis Ford, who I talked about Megalopolis earlier, but this is a Sofia Coppola movie. I've known about this movie because the soundtrack is very notable. It has a lot of bands I like on it. I know New Order is featured on this, like what was it, Age of Consent by New Order was in the trailer, which I thought was awesome. So I'm like, oh, cool, I gotta see this movie. It's in the know, man, it's cool. The movie was not that cool. I didn't care about these people. Maybe I wasn't supposed to because they're just like vapid, rich, elite idiots. I guess that was the point. I wouldn't watch it again. Immaculate. So Sydney Sweeney is this American who goes to this nunnery. What do you call those? Not a monastery. A habit? A cloister? Whatever. Cloister's a Pokemon. But Sydney Sweeney wants to become a nun. She goes to this nun school, boot camp, training academy. I can't think of the word right now. I don't remember why, but the people running the school are evil, nefarious. They have some other scheme going on, and they have DNA from Jesus, the spear that stabbed him on the cross. They have the spear or like the cloth he was wearing, make a clone of Jesus. Now that I'm remembering, this movie's kind of insane. It's more of a body horror movie than a religious movie or a possession movie. Oh, I'm just remembering the ending right now. I don't know if I should say what happens. I'm not going to say it just because we got to keep this R-rated. It's worth a watch if you like horror movies, gross movies, intense movies. Imaginary. This movie is stupid. Scary. Imaginary friends. Imaginary friends go evil. You can see where this plot goes. My favorite line from this movie, old lady neighbor who was helping them figure stuff out. And eventually she had this line where some girl was like, no, Bobo is after us. Bobo is her imaginary friend. And the old lady just acting as best as she can. She just goes, Bobo is bad? I had to pause the movie. I was laughing so hard. Don't see it. Stop motion. I remember I watched this the same night as Imaginary. Not a great night for movies. Stop motion was very visually interesting. The trailer looked really cool. I guess if you're a fan of stop motion or are into it, it's probably one of the biggest things to come out. Cursed Friends. Okay, so when I wrote this down on my list, I couldn't even remember the name of the movie. Apparently this is just a Comedy Central movie. I don't remember where I saw it. It might be on like Paramount or something. I think they own Comedy Central. Either way, it's about these doofus millennial comedians who are cursed for some reason. It's got Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows in it. What was it about? There's a curse. You got these friends. I don't know. Don't watch it. The Ice Storm. Okay, so this is by an author named Rick Moody. You don't have to watch this. In fact, don't. It's not good. Or maybe it is good. I don't know. I didn't read the book, but it had that Perks of a Wallflower kind of feel where it's like, we're all growing up. What is life becoming? I don't know. Things are changing. I don't know what you call this. Drama, family drama, coming of age. Elijah Wood gets electrocuted in the end, so that's pretty fun. Dream Scenario. Okay, this was a movie where Nicolas Cage plays this college professor, and for some reason, everyone starts seeing him in their dreams. No one knows why. He kind of becomes this weird celebrity. I don't remember how it ends. I don't care how it ends because it really lost steam for me after a certain point. Like, I actually don't remember what the conclusion was, why he was in everyone's dreams. The first half of this is worth a watch. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I was surprisingly surprised with this. They find a body, don't know what to call her. They call her Jane Doe. Daisy Ridley is the body. She's basically easiest acting job ever. She just kind of lays there dead the whole time. She's possessed by some ghosts remaining from the Salem witch trial, something like that. Father and son are morticians trying to cut her open, do all that stuff they got to do. And the ghost comes alive and it's haunting them. It was good. The Perfect Host. Okay, this movie was surprised. Didn't know anything about it going in. A lot of fun. There's this criminal. I think he robbed a bank, something like that. He's on the run from the law. Shows up at this guy's house saying like, oh, can I use your phone? I'm just this guy. I'm lost. My car broke down. But he's really a criminal. And I forget why, but Miles Crane knows he's a criminal and starts setting up this trap for him. And he's not really nice, proper gentleman. He's actually a crazy killer or something like that. I don't remember all the details because this movie honestly fell apart around like the 70% mark. It was going great. If you want to watch this, the first like 70% worth seeing. I really enjoyed the concept of it. I don't remember or care how it ended. The Vacation remake. Okay, so I haven't seen the original Vacation. I know of it. I know it's famous. It had sequels. People quote it. I'm sure you can see this without having seen the original because it's not very plot heavy. Chevy Chase was in this. It got some laughs out of me. It wasn't a completely terrible remake or anything. So if you like vacation stuff, go see it. I think the biggest laugh we got out of this movie was a joke I made about the movie, not the movie itself. But my favorite joke from this was at the end when they meet up with the grandparents who are Chevy Chase and his character's wife in this movie. There's some guitar in a very nice sectioned off glass case. And he's like, Bob Dylan gave me that guitar. And he's like, wow, Grandpa, the Bob Dylan? He's like, no, just some guy named Bob Dylan. Paris, Texas. This was like one of those sad astronaut movies, but it took place in Texas. This guy has amnesia and a red hat, and his brother finds him, and he's like, where have you been? He had some kind of mental breakdown. But then he goes on this very sad, lonely quest to find his wife. It's basically like an A24 movie 30 years before that was a thing. Lucky. Okay, this was one of my favorite movies of the year. What's it about? It's about this old guy coming to terms with the fact that he's going to die and that he's old. But it was very fun. It was warm-hearted. It was a fun movie. It made me laugh. It was cute. It had a good message. The ride was good. David Lynch is one of his friends who loses his turtle. A lot of good stuff. Speaking of David Lynch, I watched Inland Empire, and I don't even know what to say about this movie. So it's David Lynch, so I don't want to just say it's bad, because obviously he's a good filmmaker. He's made a lot of stuff. I like a lot of his movies. He puts a lot of thought in them. There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of artsy, intellectual symbolism. But he may have gone too far with that in this. There's some people on YouTube who have like 5.5-hour videos breaking down this whole thing, like what it really meant. I'm like, guys, does it matter what it meant? Thief was directed by Michael Mann, same guy who directed Manhunter. I liked Manhunter, thought I would like Thief. I did not like Thief. Another reason I thought I would like it was because the poster looks cool, the trailer looked cool, and apparently the music was done by Popol Vuh. Tangerine Dream, I think that is. But one of the krautrock bands that I really liked. They did a soundtrack to this movie. The soundtrack was cool. I was just waiting for something to happen, like anything to happen. First 30 minutes was just like, and the guy's like drilling into a safe, and the music. I'm like, can I go to bed now? Okay, speaking of David Lynch, there's Wild at Heart. What was this about? Nicolas Cage is this bad boy, and he steals Laura Dern's heart away, and they go on the run. It's about all I remember from it. So Sting is about this girl who has a pet spider, and this alien stuff infects the spider, becomes a big evil spider, starts attacking people in her apartment complex, and they have to fight the spider. It was unusual for a horror movie for me because it was very like PG rated, PG-13. You could watch this with kids and everyone could enjoy it. You know, I'm used to blood and guts and the worst things imaginable. Pleasantville. I really liked this movie. I thought it was very original. I remember seeing it like in Blockbuster and seeing the trailers for it when it came out. And he's a big fan of this 1950s TV show, kind of like, oh, what's that one with the what is that? The Andy Griffith Show. Basically like the Andy Griffith Show, something like that. He's a big fan of the show. I don't remember why, but they get sucked into the TV show and it's all in black and white. They interact with people in the show and he's like, wait, that episode didn't happen yet. You can't do that with that guy. I thought that was very interesting. Almost Matrix-like in a weird way, which I always like movies about, you know, simulations, realities within realities, stuff like that. Eventually, the black and white world of the 50s TV show started to have color. And why it had color changed from person to person. That thing wasn't really clear to me. I wish that was a little more clear. Serial Mom was a movie by John Waters. I did not like this movie. I didn't know if it was supposed to be funny or scary or satire. You can skip it. Greedy People. I had no idea what this was before we watched it, and then we watched it, and I really enjoyed it. Comedy of errors. With cops in a small town, there is a murder, something goes wrong, it's this person, oh, there's a bigger plot, what's going on? A lot of crazy stuff, it snowballs. It was a funny movie. Men, A24 horror movie that I did not enjoy. I usually like their horror movies. You know, I see the title of this, I see the trailer, and I'm thinking, all right, it's just going to be men are evil, right? Yeah, I've seen that before. But it wasn't. It wasn't just about that. It was about this girl dealing with her past trauma and everything seems creepy to her. The problem with this movie was that it was slow as hell and nothing happened. So skip it. Fright Night felt like a very classic 80s horror movie. This felt like real life Stranger Things. This felt like what Stranger Things wants to be, except it wasn't sci-fi. It was like vampires. This guy's neighbor was a vampire, and he's like, hey, my neighbor's a vampire. And you're like, no, he's not. And it turns out he is a vampire. And my favorite part of this movie, the best character for me, was his friend was this older guy who had this TV show that was like a horror anthology, kind of like Elvira the Crypt Keeper type character. He would introduce these horror movies. But he was Cornelius from Planet of the Apes. He was the guy who was playing Andy McDowell or Roddy McDowell. You see his face, not in the ape costume. And I'm like, man, you look just like Cornelius. You've got this real ape quality about you. I suppose we all do, but, just like the way he walked, very ape. I like Fright Night. I would recommend it. Tarot, not good. Stupid Netflix, forgettable kind of movie put on. There's some loud noises. Dumb shit happens. You can skip this. Babylon. Okay, so this had Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie starring in a movie together about Hollywood, a very transitional period in Hollywood's history. Does that remind you of anything by Quentin Tarantino? Like his last movie? The movie was marketed completely wrong. If you watch any of the trailers for this, all of them, it just shows this big party movie, like it's a Great Gatsby, it's Wolf of Wall Street kind of stuff. It wasn't just like a giant party movie. It was like a coming of age of an industry, of a culture, of these people and their lives. And they start at one place, they go somewhere else. Friends become enemies, enemies become friends. It's very long. So if you're in for like a 3.5 hour movie, have nothing to do one night, it's worth one watch. Asteroid City, Wes Anderson. Okay, so I like Wes Anderson. I've seen all his movies. He needs to try something else. God, they say this about everyone now, but if you've seen any Wes Anderson movie, you have seen this movie. Same cast of people, same weird symmetrical framing, same color palette, same like rhythm to the dialogue. I did not laugh. I didn't like it. I didn't even finish it. He needs to try something else at this point. Aloha. Okay, this was one of the worst movies that I've seen all year. Production-wise, it was fine. It looked good. It sounded good. It felt good. It had a warm feel to it. It had a lot of big names in it. Look, you got Bradley Pitt, Emma Stone, Rachel McAdams, Bill Murray, John Krasinski, Danny McBride, Alec Baldwin. A lot of big names in this. And that's cool. But what is this movie about? Hell if I know. Bradley Cooper is this astronaut or U.S. Marine that did something in the past and it didn't go great. And now he's going to an army base in Hawaii. Emma Stone is a real gung-ho, yay, yes sir, kind of cadet. And Rachel McAdams is his ex-wife who lives on the island, and she's dating John Krasinski. He's like the new father to their kids, and they're having kind of a rivalry, but they never say anything to each other. The whole movie, they just like nod at each other. And he's falling for Emma Stone. And at the same time, Bill Murray is like an Elon Musk character, and he's got a satellite. I think he's like sold out to the Chinese or something, and he's like gonna use the satellite to sell out the US. There's some kind of terrorist plot, and he defeats Bill Murray's evil satellite plan with pirated music, I think. I have no idea what this movie's about. It was terrible. It was not a good movie. But watch it just for the spectacle of seeing something that can't get any worse. Speaking of things that can't get any worse, there's Killing Me Softly. This movie is terrible. It's really bad. Hilariously bad, though. I should do a bad movie breakdown of this someday. Do I recommend this? If you like good, bad movies, it's worth a watch just for how freaking terrible this thing is. Should you actually watch this? No. Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. Okay, what is this about? So Antonio Banderas is a prisoner in like a mental hospital type thing. He's got something wrong with him. And after a long time, he gets let out. And he sees this heroin-addicted pornographic actress and becomes infatuated with her to the point where he just breaks into her apartment and says, I'm your husband now. Ties her up, and he basically holds her hostage. And it's the weirdest thing because people are eventually wondering like, hey, where is she? And they find her. And, it's like, oh my God, she's being held hostage. But the weird thing is that he's actually very nice to her, and she ends up liking him. It's really, I don't know what to say about this. Trap by M. Night Shyamalan. This was one of the worst movies I've seen all year. I don't even think I could finish it. The trailer I thought was interesting. There's this concert going on, big concert venue somewhere in Philadelphia, because all of his movies take place in Pennsylvania. Putting on a concert, and apparently there's this serial killer on the loose in the concert. And it might be Channing Tatum who's taken his daughter to the concert, and she doesn't know he's a serial killer, and they're using the stadium as a trap to try and catch this killer. If that was the whole concept of the movie, I would have really liked it. Like, hey, I've never seen a whole movie, action, thriller, suspense kind of movie take place within a sports stadium, that's cool. But it didn't. Like 35 minutes in, he's out of the sports stadium, and it just becomes a really terrible M. Night Shyamalan type of movie with that lame writing, terrible acting. Cuckoo is the horror movie, also kind of sci-fi-ish, starring Hunter Schafer and some other German people. The main character's family goes to this resort that is being built in the forests of Bavaria. The father of the family is something to do with the development or the construction of that resort. So the family's living there for the time. Something about this weird monster in the forest that like impregnates people, but it's like this bird thing that does this evil shriek and has like mind control time powers. I don't know. I didn't really like it. It had potential to be really cool. I didn't think it was that great. Woman of the Hour by Anna Kendrick. She's an aspiring actress from somewhere not Hollywood, goes to Hollywood. There's this creepy dude. She wins a date with him on a dating show. She is the girl. He's one of the three guys. He wins out. They go on a date. She's creeped out by him and leaves. That's the extent of that. I thought it's an interesting story. Could have been like a short because the rest of his serial killer antics are just told through flashbacks that don't directly relate to the main story. So they just feel like awkward cutaways. It had potential. I mean, I've never heard of that serial killer before, so that's an interesting story. Apparently, it's based on a real thing, but I didn't really enjoy this. House of the Dead. Okay, this was a big disappointment because I really like that House of the Dead arcade game. Remember these arcade games from the 90s and early 2000s? House of the Dead. They were like on the boardwalk or at carnivals or something. I've known about this movie for a long time, but I have not seen it because it got like a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. No one's spoken highly of it, but I found it at Goodwill for like $1. So I'm like, hey, let's check it out. The biggest problem was that there was no House of the Dead. It was Island of the Dead. They go to an island where there's a bunch of zombies. There's no big mansion, the House of the Dead. You're off to a bad start right there. Silent Hill movie based on the video game of the same name. The movie looked cool. It felt cool. I think they used just songs right from the game. I know the game has a very famous soundtrack. They did not tell the plot in the most concise, understandable way when the big reveal happened, so I was very confused. Man on the Moon, starring Jim Carrey, playing Andy Kaufman. So I only watched this movie because there was a whole documentary based on Jim Carrey's life outside of this movie when he was filming. He got so into the character of Andy Kaufman that he convinced himself he was Andy Kaufman. He kind of went crazy. Even Andy Kaufman's kids spoke to Jim Carrey as if they were speaking to their dead father. I don't know if that's true or not, or this is just actors being extremely pretentious, getting too into method acting. That's probably the case. I don't know much about Andy Kaufman. I've heard of him. I know a little bit about him. Okay, so you watch this biography. It's about a comedian. You figure a biography about a comedian would be funny, but I didn't laugh once. So that's a big problem right there. The Substance. Okay, this was one of the best movies that I've seen all year. It was absolutely insane. I really liked it. It was body horror. I feel like this is going to be remembered as one of the craziest body horror type of movies. Every time you thought it was peak insanity, it kept going. There must have been 5 or 6 moments. So I'm like, this has to be it. I'm like, oh God, no, it's not. Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, they were all good. I really enjoyed this movie. Some sci-fi aspects to it with the body switching. I really liked it. Not for everyone. You have to have a strong stomach to see this movie, it's all I'll say. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my list. Let me really quick give you my best movies of the year. I got 10 of these. So, The Substance, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing from the 80s, The Holdovers, Lucky, Beetlejuice 2, The Telemarketers documentary, Aniara, Prisoners, Manhunter, and The Righteous Gemstones. Let's go into the worst things I've seen in 2024. Saltburn, The Eyes of Orson Welles, Cursed Friends, The Informers, Serial Mom, Asteroid City, Aloha, Killing Me Softly, Trap, and Men. Man, that was a lot of talking. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you very much. I appreciate it as always. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or happy whatever the hell you celebrate. Happy winter solstice, why not? In all seriousness, I do just want to give a nice thank you to everyone who has watched, liked, subscribed, shared my videos, said something nice about them, enjoyed my videos. I really appreciate it. 2024 has been a big year for this channel. I got monetized earlier this year because of that I Am Legend Adaptation Showdown video. The CGI Olivia video, that did very well. It's just the name. I know it's not real CGI, it's compositing. It makes for a better YouTube title. As long as you guys keep watching, keep enjoying them, I'm going to keep doing them. And honestly, if nobody watches, I'm probably still going to do these anyway because I just like blabbing on about things that I'm into. And it means the world to me to have an audience to blab on to. So, thank you. Here's to another good year movie watching in 2025. Goodbye.